Hey everybody, long time no see. Corey here coming at you with a review of the QSP Puffin today. Sorry for the delay in videos. I'm going to let you into my personal life a little bit here. I'm at the end of a divorce. So all this lag has really been me just kind of dealing with that and also not being able to buy more knives. But we're getting back into the swing of things. Thank you for Tyler over at Everyday EDC for lending me this knife. It really is a great little knife, and I am excited to talk about it. So, we're going to do what we normally do. We're going to start with some size comparisons. Actually, before I do that, let me get this guy open. Okay, and we're turning the camera. Okay, so there's the QSP Puffin. Here it is next to my, oh my god, it's back from warranty. We'll talk about that later. The ZT0452CF, which is my conventionally large knife. Here it is next to the Ontario Rat number 2, which is my conventionally small knife. My camera continues to move here. And we're going to get rid of the ZT because I think the point is made here, right? The ZT is a very large knife. We are not dealing with a very large knife when it comes to the Puffin. And I do actually want to leave the Rat 2 out on the table for a second here because I think there's kind of a statement to be made about these two knives in comparison to one another. So, most of you are familiar with the Rat 2. I honestly forget if the handle is G10 or FRN or, you know, some kind of cheaper plastic. But, you know, this one comes in a D2 blade. They also come in AUS-8, a little bit cheaper. But the Rat 2 is notorious for being just a good overall EDC knife. It's definitely budget-friendly. You know, anyone can pick one up. It's no big deal, and a lot of people love it, and it's great. It's great for a long time. It's great for a lot of people for a long time. The QSP is a little bit less accessible. The QSP seems to hover around, at least this version, about 130 to 140 bucks. Sorry, it doesn't want to focus. And, you know, that's a big price difference. But for what you're getting, this day and age, I would say it's absolutely justified. So we'll remove the Rat 2 for a second. Well, we'll just remove the Rat 2. But basically what I'm getting at in this video, the QSP to me feels like a roided out Rat 2. And I really do think that's valid because you saw them next to each other. They're basically the same knife. You know, of course they're not exactly the same, but fine, I'll bring it out again, okay, right? Look at our blade length here, right? Look at our blade length, look at our handle length. I mean, these knives, for all intents and purposes, I mean, we're really dealing with two knives that are extremely similar, and I don't think that's necessarily a coincidence. I'm not saying QSP copied the Ontario Rat, but I'm saying that I think they're trying to dip into a market that can appreciate the Ontario Rat. So what differences are we looking at here? Well, clearly, on this handle, we are dealing with carbon fiber. Please focus. Carbon fiber and titanium. This is also a frame lock if you haven't seen that already. And titanium pocket clip. So basically, you know, your standard luxury knife kind of, ooh, we've got titanium, we've got carbon fiber. Also, the blade is S35VN blade steel, which is pretty much understood to be not god tier in the world of blade steels, but it's on the border of being a premium blade steel. S35VN is what you end up seeing on mostly knives between like $100 and $200. And honestly, my ZT that, you know, you can pay $260 for if you want to get it straight from ZT, you can see right there, that is S35VN as well. So, I mean, S35VN, you know, it's a good blade steel, and a lot of people, you know, it's their favorite blade steel. So that's what we're looking at here. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's a roided out Rat. Now, in terms of things that I would like to be different, the ergos on this, they're pretty darn good. They're good all the way down to the pinky. And I think that's just where I start to kind of struggle with this because it's just a little too short. My pinky doesn't really rest on it. It keeps wanting to kind of slide off. So when I really kind of grip the knife, it feels like something's hanging off here. But again, you know, that could just be a personal preference thing. It's the size of the knife, right? I mean, it's a pretty small knife. It's a compact knife. You know, the handle's not going to be that crazy. That being said, I think it could be solved with something like a full forward finger choil. But then again, we're dealing with a relatively small knife. So how much of the blade do you want to eat up with a finger choil? You know, I think this is just a design decision that they had to live with. In terms of fit and finish, everything is really nice. The carbon fiber isn't flush, but I don't think they wanted it to be. It's pretty clear. It is contoured. I can appreciate that. It's not just a hunk of carbon fiber that's, you know, flat and has sharp edges. They definitely rounded it out on the edges. So it's clear that this is what they intended to do. The screws aren't flush. I don't really have anything to say about that. Normally, again, I would say, I wish the screws were flush. However, they've done things well. Like, for example, this backspacer, it is flawless. It is absolutely flush. And what that tells me is, okay, they were smart enough and capable enough to do the backspacer. That tells me that if they wanted the screws to be flush, they would have done that. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and assume, even though, you know, who am I? I'm going to assume that they didn't want the screws to be flush, because the way the rest of this knife is made, the lines are nice, the machining is nice, they got a lot of other things right. So I find it hard to believe that they would have, you know, consciously made this mistake on a screw. The only thing that's really driving me crazy, this QSP logo, it's not flat, or it's not centered. And I know that's like the tiniest little nitpick, but we're going to get into something in a little bit about this knife that I also compare to the Rat 2. But, you know, now that we're getting in the above $100 price range, you might look at this and think, oh, well, maybe it's like that because it's a free spinning pivot. It is not a free spinning pivot. It is a D-shaped pivot. However, it does have just a little bit of wiggle room, which is why when you tighten it down, the logo ends up not being straight. Okay, so what do I want to say? And, oh, by the way, it's a drop point blade, right? I mean, it's fine. So the Rat 2. If you look at my review about the Rat 2, it's a really short review. And that's because the knife is just good. It's very good. It's ergonomic, it's budget friendly, it's got a snappy action. It's a very good EDC knife. And you know what? I feel the same way about the QSP Puffin as I feel about the Rat 2, in the sense that it's just good. The ergos are good. The blade is good. It's made of high quality materials. I mean, for all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, this is like the rich man's Rat 2. And, you know, if you're into the Rat 2, then good for you. I think you're really going to like the QSP Puffin. The only difference that I can really point out in terms of ergonomics, I actually like the Rat 2 a little bit better, because you see this kind of hump, the way when the blade is fully extended, how it's got like a hump where the jimping is. That's actually kind of nice. It gives you good purchase, whereas on the Puffin, it's very straight. That being said, I don't know if this is meant to be a working man's knife. You know, with the carbon fiber and the black on the titanium and everything, it's very classy. I would almost go so far as to say this could pass as your gentleman's EDC as well. Now, let's talk about what I don't like about the QSP. Not many things, as a matter of fact. The handle could be longer, but again, I'm not necessarily going to fault it for that because, well, it's a small knife. It is what it is. The edges, right here, the machining on these edges right here where the relief cut is on the lock bar, actually pretty sharp. I would sand these down if the knife wasn't mine. Similarly, let's see if you can see this. This still has some fabric. You see that neon green looking fabric right there? That came to me from Tyler. And Tyler, thanks for a piece of your pants, whatever this might be. This is actually really sharp too. You know, is it the worst thing in the world? No. Does it make me cry every time I touch it? No. But there have been a few times where I grinded up against this and I actually thought I might be touching, you know, the blade or something, just because it's actually pretty sharp. The other thing about this particular model, and Tyler mentioned this in his video, the only way that you're going to open this is with either you use two hands and you just manually open it, or you got to Spidey flick it. And it took me a little bit. For a really long time, I just couldn't do it. The cutout, this knife is so tiny. The way that you do it, it's not as accessible. You can't get to that unless you kind of pop it open. So you'll see when I open it, you might not be able to see it. If I do it quickly, you can't really see it. But what I'm actually doing, I actually have to wedge my finger in here. And you can see before I open it, I actually push, and I get it to this point. I actually get it past the detent, so that I can just flick it open the rest of the way. And I find that if you just try to just go straight at it, you'll never get it unless you have really long nails. So it's kind of more of a push in so that you pop it out. We'll do it again slow. Push in so that it's free, and then you finally flick it out. Now, if you don't like that, they actually sell this exact knife in a different version that doesn't have the cutout, and it has a thumb stud. And I can only imagine, even though I haven't handled it, that that would be significantly better, at least for me, than what we're dealing with right here. So, hey everybody, tacking this on either at the end or somewhere in the middle. It'll probably be at the end because I don't want to edit it into the middle, and it's a completely different setup. The action on the QSP, the Puffin, it's really, really good. I mean, it is really smooth. That being said, fidgetability, you're probably going to want the thumb stud version because, like I said, Spidey flicking this can be a little, it's not my thing. Might be yours, but it's not mine. So, there you go. Action's good, too. Overall, what do I have to say about the QSP Puffin? Do not underestimate QSP. I haven't handled a lot of QSPs. However, the ones that I have handled, they've done nothing but impress me. They're kind of a surprise brand. You don't hear a lot about them, but it seems like the stuff that they do seem to do well, and people seem to like it. If you're the kind of person who has a Rat 2, or you've been thinking about a Rat 2, and you've got too much money lying around, or you already have a Rat 2, and you're like, well, I really like it, but I just wish I could get it in premium materials, I think this would actually be a really good place to look. I think it would be a really good upgrade. And if you're just not even really into knives, it's classy. It's a nice little pocket knife to have. Yeah, it's kind of expensive, but you've got premium materials. You'll be able to brag to your friends about it. So, you know, I say go for it. If you're into it, I definitely like the knife. It's good enough for me. Does it blow my mind? It doesn't blow my mind, but I mean, it's like I said, it kind of reminds me of a Rat 2. It is very, very good, and I think it's really sexy, especially the black on black version. They've got different versions too. If you like a more of a silver titanium or a satin blade, they've got that as well. So take a look. I would definitely say overall, it's worth the money. I see no problem with the price point of $130 to $140. It's right where it needs to be. So, sorry again for the break, guys. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next time.